All right. So, hi, I'm Daniela from Bestie Life. Today I'm with Christine Kennedy of Christine Kennedy Wellness and a fellow counselor, Christy Scalzo. Say hi, Christy. If you want to take a minute and introduce yourself, Christy.
Hi, yeah, I have the pleasure of working with Daniela. Our offices are right next door. I'm a school counselor. I have been working in a school for about 15 years, and I was in addictions work prior to that for 3 years, working in both an intensive inpatient and then also an outpatient setting.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Lots of very
So,
different.
as part of our new
Welcome.
ongoing series, Counselors on Couches Having Tea, we're going to take different topics and questions from you guys and have just kind of a casual discussion to talk about some of the options, answers, and ways that we can help you in those areas.
Yes,
So,
we're so excited. I actually got a lot of good questions about this topic. I think that with this day and age, I feel like so many people have so many things on their plate and time. We can't create more of it. So we have to just talk about it and figure it out. So I didn't know if you guys wanted me to just start with one of the questions and then we can, have a conversation about that one and move on from there, going back and forth if that works.
absolutely.
Okay. So I thought this one was interesting. I got the question of, I struggle with a thing I call time management and time expectation, and I try to do all things. I'm always left feeling burnt out and tired.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Oh,
think we can
Daniela,
probably all relate to that at some point in our lives.
yeah, Daniela, you need to totally field this one because you have become so good at saying no, and I feel like that's the key.
That's it.
Yeah, boundaries. Boundaries are big when it comes to time. As a people pleaser, I would love to say yes and make everybody else happy, but I've learned over many just, different experiences that if I don't set some very clear boundaries when it comes to, my time and when I'm going to do certain things and what I'm going to allow in at certain times, it does cause a lot of stress and a lot of expectations that unfortunately are just unrealistic to try and meet. So boundaries is a big thing. And it can be very tough because we like helping, we like being there for other people. But unfortunately, I think sometimes the busier we make ourselves, the more overwhelmed we feel and the less efficient we are and the less effective we are at doing things. And so taking those moments, as I've said in my other stuff, to savor the slow and just take a moment to do nothing.
And I think being comfortable and being okay in the silence, a lot of people fill their time because they're uncomfortable in that space, and that's something that you can practice a lot with mindfulness,
Mm-hmm.
staying in that present moment. But I also think a big key is having a why. I think there's so many different plates that, like, we just said, are going it all the time, and understanding we can't get to them all, and what
Mm-hmm.
is the most important to you at that time, and that's at the top of your list, as to where you're going to spend it. And that's what made it easier for me to start to say no to things. If it's not at the top of the list, I have to say no to it to get to the goals that are at the top of my list.
I
Mm-hmm.
totally agree. And I think one of the parts of establishing my priorities and helping me better divvy up my time was that I had to really sort through what was important. What was my first choice? Where do I want to be? What makes me feel the best? And then I was able to give my time meaningfully to those few things that I do say yes to. And for me, that felt so much better than giving just a little bit to a lot of activities, but to give meaningfully to just a few things. So I think that's part of it for me too.
I love that line. Having the meaning towards it is such a huge component to it, because then you get empowered by it versus getting that feeling of burnt out, that we hear about so much.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that. And that kind of goes into the next part, is like, how do you know where to start was one of the questions, and I think when you're going to that meaningful moment and you're going to those top priority lists, that gives you a better area and place to start.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and there's no one size fits all on where to start and what kind of path to take. Everyone has different things that work for them, different systems, but they say like to do a brain dump, you know, and just kind of put out what are all the things you have to do, whether it's related to your kids, to your job, to your household responsibilities. And like Christy said, you know, kind of really prioritize them, and then find, you know, a way to organize your physical time. Okay, this has to happen at this time. This has to happen today, and be able to kind of have some flexibility and control. A lot of times just feeling like you have that control over your time and what it looks like and how it's managed can change the way you feel about it. You know, your actual time hasn't changed, the expectations haven't changed, but that mindset of control can make a huge difference.
Yeah, I think one of the things for me too, and figuring out my priorities, and this is so silly, but I think just journaling, you know, starting to figure out where my what am I most grateful for, you know, even starting with a gratitude list, and then kind of sifting through how do I fill my day with what I'm grateful for and prioritize those things in my life, whether it's family or you know, anything. And then starting to shift through and make sure I can put my time into those efforts that I felt the most grateful for and rewarded for. So I think that's a good place for people to start if they're feeling like they can't match up expectation and reality.
Absolutely. And, you know, we spoke about it last week a little bit more of, you know, the self-care component. And, you know, for me, something that has helped me to be able to get through other things is starting with myself each morning, and starting, like you just said, with those affirmations and, you know, that self-care, because as givers and people pleasers, we can't give to others if our own cup isn't full. You know, so I think that gratitudes and affirmations is a huge, you know, it's a simple, small thing like you're saying, but it is a huge component to your mindset and to the thought process of things. Because I think if we constantly, you know, I read personal development a lot, and the one that we were just talking about is if you're putting these negative things out there, like I can't complete things, or I can't, you know, there's not enough time in the day. Each time you put those types of thoughts out there, that's what you're going to create. And when you go back to that gratitude, you turn that mindset into that more of that positive, which is that energy lifting, energy boosting versus that, you know, energy sucking feeling that we can get.
Yeah. You know, I was going to add too that one of the things I do sometimes, especially on my drive home from work, is I turn all noise off, like no radio, no background noise. And it just allows my thoughts to settle a little bit. So that way, as I shift gears from work to home, I am at home and I'm present at home with what that next set of responsibilities is. And I'm not still partially at work and partially doing my, you know, whatever else is on the list. And so I think one of you guys said it earlier, but I think even being comfortable in silence and allowing your mind to sort of have that list of what made you happy in the day, what are you looking forward to for the next part of your day is good too. So
yeah. And for some reason that the word intentionality keeps coming to my head, you know, and when we focus more with intentionality, when we're doing something, you know, social media comes, you know, to play. How many hours a day are people scrolling on social media, you know, myself included at times. And when you recognize those things, you can create a lot more time in your day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to totally jump over you, Danielle, really quick because I with this kept popping in my head too, and it came back up with intentionality again. But I love that you have an I Love Mondays segment, because to me, it's not like I'm writing Mondays off as the suckiest day of the week, but I love that you're rebranding it into something great and meaningful. And it almost makes me be like, a little more excited, like, what am I going to get done on Mondays? How can I make this just as productive as a Thursday or a Friday? So I love that you're intentionally shifting your mindset on Mondays.
Well, thank you. Yeah, sometimes it might be a sarcastic I love Mondays, but either way, I think once you put it out there and you start working with it, it does take that whole shift around how you think about different things. You know, I love house cleaning. I love vacuuming. I actually do love vacuuming, but you know, it's not only the mindset, but I think those routines, as you each are talking about those different, you know, getting up with intention and gratitudes and journaling and, you know, the routine of getting in your car and shutting the noise off. I think some of those routines and habits that we start to integrate into our day to day that maybe initially feel kind of forced or unnatural or uncomfortable, some of the routine helps not only with our time, because it just becomes a habit, but the decision-making process becomes less overwhelming because it's just, once it becomes a habit, you don't have to think about it. It doesn't end up another thing on your plate. I got some feedback from a woman, Lori J. Fish Hurst, who shared a great tip she had when it comes to, a lot of people talk about trying to find time to fit exercise and fitness routines into their time. And she said, she does it with her kids as far as they live stream a video together every day. It's something they do together. Her kids can burn off their energy. She gets her routine in and feels more centered and grounded. So sometimes just rethinking how to use that time. A lot of people think they have to go to the gym or do it by themselves, as opposed to blend it with the fact that you've got kids and need to spend time with them and get them active as well. So thanks, Lori, for that great tip too.
That was like a huge game changer for me when a goal was
Mhm.
about my fitness and my health, and trying to fit the time in with kids to get to the gym, pack all their stuff up and do all of that. It was such an overwhelming task. And I think we can take that thought process to any new situation. And that will oftentimes stop us. But we get so zoomed in on, well, that's the only option. And when we can take that mindful minute and take that step back, I think we see those other options. And
Mhm.
getting, my workouts in the morning downstairs in my basement made me be able to check something off the list that I was never even an option for me before, because I was so zoomed in on one set way. And when we take that lens out, it makes it, it gives you so many more options.
I
Yeah.
agree. I actually think that's one of the things I'm grateful for from the COVID and quarantine experiences. It took away some of the former things that I only thought, I could only work out this way at this gym at this time in this routine. And it's really brought me into a more creative way to do my workouts. And to that point, kind of circling back to the timing part, it also is keeping me planning ahead. So, every day I know, am I working out with my son? Am I gonna, what's my goal this week? Is it running? Is it strength? And I'm thinking ahead, and I'm thinking of creative ways to do that and keep it interesting, which is helping
Mhm.
me meet one of my priorities, and helping me better manage my time in a way that at the end of that, I feel really grateful for the experience. So
Mhm.
I love that point. That was a great thing to think about, sharing workouts, and that's something I've been doing too.
Okay.
The next question that I got was, how do you know, oh, I did that one, I'm sorry. How do you set up your calendar to set those little goals and long-term goals?
Oh, goodness. Again, for me at least, it's very individual. Like, I use a digital calendar, and so I'm able to shift and move things around, but at least they're always in my face a little bit. So I always see them. Even if I didn't get to something today, I can easily move it to tomorrow so that the goals never go away. I'm just kind of flexible with maybe when and how I do them. And I think it's part of a bigger process of thinking when you say, bigger goals and then the smaller ones, that macro process of looking at what's your why, what's your intention, what's your mindset, and then the day-to-day minutia of, well, how does that happen? What does it look like? And when do I do it?
Yeah. I use a digital calendar too, which is a complete lifesaver because I am actually not organized and I'm not a planned out girl, and I prefer to just fly by the seat of my pants. But
And she
professionally,
makes it look super easy and super comfortable.
it's fun that way.
I wish
But
I could be that laid back because she makes it look like, oh, it's good.
but when I have a professional obligation that I do want to be slightly more organized for, it's honestly like old school high school strategies where I chunk it out. I put my long-term thing in my calendar for whatever day it's due, and then digitally I put a couple days ahead of it. Make sure to think about this or prepare for this or create whatever I need. And to me, it's like a strategy my high school teachers taught me, but I still use it. Converting it to a digital calendar made a world of difference because I always have my phone on me, but I don't always have some paper and pencil. So that's how I prioritize my short and long term goals.
And I think, breaking it down, understanding the bigger picture and then breaking it down into those steps, that's a process in itself. I'm a paper and pen person. Actually, when you guys were talking about your digital, I'm looking at my calendar, and, whatever you want to use, whether it's paper or pen and whether it's digital, knowing what works best for you is a huge key as well. There was a time where I was trying because everybody was going digital and I tried it and it was so overwhelming to me that I had to go with what works best for me. And the paper and the pen process was that, but more understanding, you're not going to reach your long-term goals in short terms. And
Right.
giving yourself that grace, because I think we live in a world of high expectation and instant gratification. I kind of wish we could go back to when we were kids, because the phone has made, I think, a world of a difference when it comes to, kids growing up and seeing likes and this and that, that's another whole segment that we can go on to. But, slowing the pace of things down and understanding that we can't get it all done at one time, is a huge start for many of us. And the book Girl Wash Your Face and Girl Stop Apologizing, Rachel Hollis, like giving yourself that grace is such a huge component to it.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Absolutely. I think, our, not only our ability to focus, like not just on the likes and the instant gratification, but our ability to focus and to have, that ability to take that mindful minute, focus on one thing at a time, focus on what's happening around us, can make a difference when it comes to feeling like we either need to be present or keep going forward. Being present over perfect is a great book as well, to kind of really be comfortable, just not thinking always about what's next, but about what am I doing right now and being here.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that kind of leads into another question that we have here. And it's how to get back on track when you get off. And to me, when I heard that question right away, I immediately went to that grace component again, because I think, oftentimes in my health and fitness business, it's like, well, I had something bad to eat, so life's over, or it's that diet mentality versus this is a journey and this is a lifestyle, and you're not comparing yourself to another person. Every body is different, and if I'm looking at somebody and they've lost, 100 pounds and I've only lost 10, well, that's not a comparison. We're two totally different people, and I think that when you give yourself that grace to be on your own journey, and I think that goes back to zooming out versus zooming in, is a huge component to being able to get back on track.
Right. I think, they talk about mom guilt. We are our worst critics, our most harsh, voice in our own head, and changing that voice and that story in our head of what we tell ourselves. It's, like you said, definitely that grace and just accepting things as opposed to the should have, would have, could have, and just, definitely being forgiving.
Yeah. I think too, it's also important just to not feel bad about today being the first day. There doesn't need to be that historical pain over what you didn't do, but just embrace it's today. So, okay, I got off track, or, I didn't do a great job in this last week or last month or last 10 years, whatever it is, but today I'm going to restart. And I think that's one of the most exciting things about life, is that if you want to change it, you just, okay, go start today.
Yeah.
And pick up the pencil. And I think, a layer to that is being realistic and setting realistic goals. If, using weight loss as an example, you can't lose 50 pounds in one day, but maybe prioritizing health over weight, or, just starting to set those small goals, resetting your priorities, what's your gratitude list, and kind of reshifting it back to focusing on the present time is huge. And it helps you restart, even if you've fallen off track.
100%. And I think that, learning that each lesson that happens in every situation that occurs, looking at it as, well, that's a road I know not to take again, like as a learned lesson versus this is a setback. Okay, well, I know when this situation happened, I did this last time and it didn't end well. So I'm not going to do that next time, and I'm going to move forward. I love in our school, I work in the elementary now, there's a quote on one of the stairs, and it says, we don't fail until we stop trying.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think that's such a great mindset. It's just keep learning from our experiences, just keep trying to figure out what's the best path for you. All three of us right here alone are going to have different paths and different reactions to things. It's learning, how your mind, your body reacts to a situation, and welcoming those situations to learn from it versus looking at it as a setback, if that makes
Right.
sense. And I
Yeah,
think
they're all opportunities, and to see it as an opportunity in some ways, and being able to shift how you think about it. And like you said, what direction you're going to take with it, if you're going to stay stuck in what didn't go well, or look at, well, this did go well, I learned this is what I can do, and have those options and a plan, is continuing in the right direction, even if it seemed like it took a different turn or course than you had planned on. It's still heading towards that ultimate destination.
I think looking at what we were just dealing with a half hour ago, trying to figure out how to get on, IG Live, we could have stopped right there and said, forget it, we'll try next week. But
Mm-hmm.
we learned that wasn't the avenue today. We learned we needed to learn a little bit more about it, but we found a path that worked for us,
I've learned I've got a lot to learn about technology.
No, you know what I think though, I like that you use that as an example, because to me it's just being flexible, that it's not always, one route, one direction, one way. And I was, well, you guys were figuring out the technology because I'm just your guest. I was like just twiddling my thumbs, hanging out, relaxed, like it was so low key and no pressure, because I was like, well, we'll get there. We'll get to the end of it. And sometimes I think appreciating that part is sort of the fun in the process. And then being able to look back at the journey and see, wow, that was a really windy road is a great part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I'm
go
sorry.
ahead. No, go ahead.
I think, when we're also talking about, getting back on track when you're sidetracked and stuff, a huge component that I see often is people think they have to do everything alone. And we don't. Especially, I know we talk about social media and some of the other impacts, but there are so many different free groups and support groups and so many ways to connect. I mean, we've never met each other in person, and here we are connecting, having that ability to step out of your comfort zone and I guess lean in, where oftentimes when we're feeling a negative emotion, we want to revert back and isolate. And I have found the more that I've leaned into any situation or any frustration, Danielle and I were just texting back and forth, like, how do we do this? What do we do? Enables us to move forward quicker. So having that courage to do that, and finding this, those people that you can, I kind of call them my tribe, those people that you can go to and connect to when you're having those feelings.
Yeah. Right. Asking for help as your superpower and a source of strength as opposed to a source of weakness. Nobody does it alone. And so to take that mindset and shift it, that the more people you have helping you actually makes you stronger, not weaker.
100%.
Mm-hmm. So just to kind of summarize, I know we've talked a lot, to kind of share what I took from a lot of the things we said today. I think when it comes to time, which was where we started, definitely having that broader why, looking at that bigger perspective of what's our why, what's our plan, what are our goals, and then breaking them down, like Christy said, chunking them into smaller individual priorities and tasks, and then the habit and routine part of some of it, and then ultimately your mindset about when things don't go according to the calendar and the plan of how your time was going to happen can change how it affects you, whether that's a positive thing or a negative thing, is all kind of looking at how flexible you are and how many options you're open to accepting when it comes to your time. Does that sound like kind of everything we talked about a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. And Kristen, it's so nice to meet you.
Hey, it was so great to meet you too. This was fun.
We have to think of a topic for next week.
Or if you have one, please send us a comment, shoot us a DM. Let us know, what do you want to know more about? What topics maybe do you want us to go a little bit more in depth into? And how can we help make some of your day-to-day a little bit easier?
Awesome. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.